Hello everybody, welcome to High Centered Off-Road. My name is Aaron. Today we're headed to Canyon City, Colorado, where we're going to take Phantom Canyon Road all the way up to Victor. What this trail lacks in 4x4 challenge, it definitely makes up for in history and lore and even a ghost story or two. So let's hit the trail.
Welcome to the history lesson. So the first thing I'm going to just make note of is anything that I'm talking about, most of it has to do with European white settlers to Colorado, but I want to make sure we understand that they are not the first people here. The First Nations people were here first. They were here for tens of thousands of years. They were spiritually connected to it. The First Nations people that were here were the Utes, Comanches, the Kiowas, the Cheyennes, the Arapaho, and the Sioux. They all inhabited this area, hunted it, lived on it, migrated through it. The road that we're actually on was a buffalo migration route that later became used more often by the Utes when they obtained horses from the Spanish back in the early 1600s. So that's how early people have been here using this particular road. A little bit of history about the trail. It was built in 1894 and it follows much of the Florence-Cripple Creek Railroad that was laid, the track that was laid through here. Again, earlier than that, it used to be a migratory path for the Indians. This connects Cripple Creek, Canyon City, Victor, and Florence. It's about 29.6 miles long. It's a dirt road all the way through. It's part of the, as we see on the sign, it's part of the Gold Belt Tour National Scenic Byway. There are 2 hand-cut stone tunnels and 3 bridges on this road. There's lots of photo ops. You might see some wildlife. There's many twists and turns, very steep drops on the sides, there are no guardrails, and it takes about 2 hours to complete the trail. So Tunnel 1 was built in 1895 after a flash flood that occurred here on July 30th. The railroad decided to raise the line of the railroad because most of it got wiped out here, and a lot of the town of Adelaide as well. It was blasted, chiseled, and cut through solid granite. There were hundreds of mines in this district, they called it, where there were 7 towns. One is still operating today. It's an operating gold mine. There used to be 500 mines in this area. In November of 1914, at the Crescent mine, miners came upon a large chamber that had its walls covered with gold crystals that were as large as thumbnails. And owners installed a vault, and armed guards escorted the ore to the mills every day because it was thousands of dollars of gold in that mine. There has been a ghost sighting on this road. It's the same ghost that people see. So back in the 1890s, there was a sighting of a man wearing a prison uniform, and people on the railroad, on the passenger train coming up here, saw this man walking on the railroad tracks, and they swore he was the guy they saw 3 days before who was hung at the Colorado State Penitentiary. And so that's the sighting that people have seen over the years. gold mine that operates today. It goes through all of the low-grade ore that is in all the pilings that came from those previous mines. They don't actually dig into the ground and mine. They go through the pilings and pull out the low-grade gold ore that's in them using some chemical procedure. So we just passed an area where the McCourt station was. In 1894, Western Union Telegraph provided a line that ran along this railroad, and they had a small telegraph office in this area here. And then they also had passing track that was laid so that at this point, 2 trains could pass each other here, and then a single track again going up and down. So we're going through the second tunnel, and this is near the town of Adelaide. It was also created after the July 30th, 1895 flash flood that came through the area. The town of Adelaide, I believe, is on the other side of this tunnel. It's a ghost town now. It had a post office and a train station, and if you had to stay overnight, the train station was also your hotel. This is also where the trains would take on water for their steam engines for the rest of the trip. And during that flash flood, 3 people in the town of Adelaide died when the boarding house near the train station was just kind of swept away by the flash flood. And one of the bodies was actually carried 12 miles downstream. As a result of that flash flood, they built the 2 tunnels, and it required 6 miles of track to be relayed. So this steel bridge was built in 1897. It replaced a wooden bridge. It is what they consider one of the remaining original bridges for the railroad. The original wooden one burned in 1896, and there was a plan to tear down this bridge and recycle the steel, but apparently they ended up keeping the original steel bridge here. On May 14th, 1901, there was a train wreck here. There was a runaway train of about 9 ore cars, and in the engine, it left the track here. It killed the engineer, and the head brakeman was seriously injured. So with the railroad construction, it began in 1893, and David Moffett, who was a Denver tycoon, he financed the Florence-Cripple Creek Railroad, and they decided to have it built here on this road, which originally, we'll learn later, was used to get ore from Cripple Creek, and they used horse-drawn wagons at the time. The first train to Cripple Creek, it arrived in July of 1894. It brought coal, lumber, merchandise, machinery, all the things that they needed up in Cripple Creek for the mining town. So we're approaching the ghost town of Wilbur. It was the largest community along this railroad route. There were 15 families and a schoolhouse. The railroad would actually stop in this town for a real quick stop, leave a bunch of coal for the schoolhouse so in the winter they could keep it warm, and then it would just continue on the way. There are remains of the ghost town here. There's some foundation outlines in stone. There's some piping, and I believe there's a cistern you can see with the stone and brick lining inside of it. So the city of Victor was founded in 1893 by 2 brothers, Frank and Harry Woods, and the elevation is almost at 10K. They're at the foot of Battle Mountain, which was known for the richest mines in Colorado. One of those mines was the Independence Mine, and it created the district's first millionaire, Scott Stratton. And then there are several other mines in the area, the Portland, the Ajax, and the Strong and Gold coin mines. In 1896, the brothers were excavating for a hotel, and they hit a gold mine vein, and so they scrapped the hotel, and they created the gold coin mine. They finally did build a hotel just a little bit further down the road. The first train here was the Florence-Cripple Creek Railroad. It arrived in 1894. and it was the only train here, so it was a monopoly for about 18 months. The current operating gold mine here is the Cripple Creek and Victor Gold Mining Company. And then there's several historic buildings in the town of Victor. The business district was destroyed in August 1899. And then when they rebuilt, like many towns like that, they rebuilt in brick. The early 1900s, the population was 18K. That's when it was in its heyday of gold mining. The population declined beginning around 1918. And now they have about 400 residents.
Welcome back, everybody. So Phantom Canyon Trail might be actually the easiest trail in Colorado. However, I really do highly recommend it. It's a beautiful trail to travel. It's full of stories and history, which you can actually explore. And Canyon City and Victor really are great places to visit, to eat at, to see some history that exists in those towns as well. So we took a couple of different trails back from Victor to Canyon City. We took Shelf Road, which was really beautiful, assuming you can handle the large cliffs off the side. Then we took the Bank Trail, which actually added a little bit of challenge to this trip, so it was pretty fun. We've got a little bit of a teaser video right here that you can take a gander at. Have you been to Canyon City or Victor? Do you like trails that aren't that hard but really provide a lot of history and lore about them? Talk about it down in the comments below. And if you like this video, like the video, boop the like button, and subscribe, and you'll get to see more like this in the future.